You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome to Film Faculty's first edition of Real Table Talks. My name is Jason Michael. I'll be your host, and I'm accompanied by
Jason,
Carrie Lynn,
Leslie-Ann.
So our first topic today is going to be Alien, because Alien is coming up on Aliens actually is coming up on its 30th anniversary this year on April 26th. They've announced it's going to be Alien Day. So as the first Real Table Talks, essentially we are going to boil this down to a couple of questions concerning mostly the first Alien movie, director's cut or theatrical edition, and also maybe include bit parts of Aliens. But first question is, what was your first introduction to the movie?
All right. Well, my first introduction was through Spaceballs, because at the time I was 11, I think, and I saw Spaceballs, and there's the parody of it's an important part of the movie. It's
Absolutely.
when John Hurt's character, what's his name? Kane, basically gives birth to the alien. And there's a parody of that in Spaceballs, Mel Brooks' parody of Star Wars and science fiction movies. And he basically does it again, and he says, "Oh no, not again." But then it turns into Looney Tunes, "Hello, my baby, hello, my darling." So that was my introduction to Aliens. And then maybe the same year or a year later, I saw Aliens by myself. I was watching TV, it was paid TV, and I saw Aliens. And my parents were out, and I was shitting bricks. That was pretty much
So
it.
you saw the second one first.
I saw the second one first, and then I saw Alien 3 in 92 at the movies. And then I saw the original, and it's the best one. And the funny thing about Aliens is that my mother came home as the alien was about to rip Bishop to shreds.
Oh.
She's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "Well, hey, come on, Mom, come watch this. Come
Moms
check this
arrive
out."
at the worst time.
There you go. And it's not like that horror thing where you're caught doing whatever to yourself, but I was watching Aliens. So she sat and watched it with me, and we were both freaking out, and oh my god, this is, it was really fun. It was fun, but it was scary at the same time. So that's my introduction. Long story short. Yeah.
Excellent.
Carrie.
Yeah.
So, I guess I will bring up my age because the first Alien movie came out in 79 and I was only 1 year old. And 86, the second one came out. And that must be where I remember my dad talking about the movie because he went to see it with a colleague of his, and my parents shared a vehicle. And so we picked him up from the movie theater after he had watched it. So this must have been 86 for the second one. And I think he was familiar with the first one, but he was super pumped after watching the movie.
No kidding, eh?
Well, yeah, right? And my dad's taste in science fiction has always shaped my own interest, and to this day we will collaborate on great science fiction movies and discuss and watch them together. And so in 86, I would have been 8 years old. And so I was, of course, far too young to watch the movie. But I remember the drive home from the movie theater. And Dad was like, and my dad is a natural storyteller. So he was like pumped, and he was like telling us about, oh my God, it was amazing. There was this thing, and it has like crab legs, and yet it's also like this in the acid blood. And he was just describing this incredible horror creature. And,
Had he seen the first one?
He must have,
Probably.
right? But like I say, I was 1 year old, so I wouldn't remember that. But he would always go, like he saw Star Wars when it first came out.
Wow.
He was
Lucky
one of the
man.
only
Lucky
people
guy.
on the block that thought it was going to be amazing because there was a lot of doubt before people saw it, right?
Yeah,
And so
true.
he
Yeah.
tells the story like that, right? Like he convinced his dad to go. His dad thought it would be a big pile of crap. But but anyway, so my introduction to Aliens was my dad's enthusiasm and this drive home from the movie theater as he was because he told us like it's way too scary for you little girls. Like you have to.
It's
And
intense.
it is.
It's really intense.
Yeah, it totally is. So it was implanted in me at the time, and I don't use the word accidentally. But yeah, no, the idea was in me at the time that this would be something that when I got old enough, I would be able to watch this movie because it would be all right for me, and that it was like this amazing opus of this science fiction movie. And so I guess from the very beginning I was very enthusiastic about it. And
Cool.
so yeah, that's my introduction to Alien.
Excellent. All right, Leslie, what was your first introduction to Alien?
Well, I just want to say, I think it's really interesting because you guys both had a chance to sort of know about Alien before actually watching it.
Okay.
Whereas for me, I was introduced to the movie by Jason.
Yeah.
And, I had no expectations at all. I knew is that I was sitting down to watch this sort of half horror movie, half...
You'd never even heard
Well, I mean, I had
it?
heard about it, but I was more into the, Saw movies and the
gore.
Yeah, gore, exactly.
What?
And so I had watched, I think, before that, Rosemary's Baby.
Okay.
And he had told me, this is supposed to be scary. I can't watch this alone. You have to watch this with me. And so I sat down, and it was the most boring movie I've ever watched. And so when he told me Alien is supposed to be horror, I was like, yeah, right. And I mean, it was far better than my experience.
Rosemary's Baby,
yeah.
Probably.
Excellent.
Cool.
My experience with Alien was I'd actually been binging on movies during my college years. I came to Alien a little bit late. I was discovering Ridley Scott. I actually watched Blade Runner much before I watched Alien. And so I remember one of my friends told me, he said to me, if you enjoyed Blade Runner, you're going to love Alien.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay. But this was, by the time this came around, I was probably 18 years old.
Okay.
So 18 years old, pretty much, this is 1998 at this point. I think all the aliens are out at this point.
Yeah. Resurrection was 97. Yeah.
So that's it. He said that's right. He brings me to that. The reason why he was talking to me about it was because the latest one had just come out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he said, would you want to kind of just binge watch them? And I said, sure. So we actually went up to the video store. We rented them all on video cassette, which was absolutely fantastic. I hadn't seen the director's cut or anything like that. These were theatrical editions that we could actually rent. And so we rented Aliens, and Alien 3.
Ooh, so you got a big dose.
And we watched all three Aliens movies back to back. And,
Holy crap!
yeah.
6 hours of movie watching.
but that wasn't uncommon during my college years.
Fair enough.
That's where you got to do it. It's in college.
Yeah. And so so that was my first introduction to Alien. I mean, I'd heard, like you guys, I'd heard about it much more in advance. I remember my father seeing it in the theater. He told me about it. He loved it. He'd been talking to me about it off and on, just because he knew that I was interested in movies and whatnot. And he says, by the time you should get to this, you should get to this.
When do you introduce aliens to your kids? That's the thing. Or Alien, I'm sorry.
Well, my
Not
son
right
is
now.
12, and
Maybe 12. 12,
he
I
can
think,
probably
is it? Yeah.
handle it now.
12?
So
Yeah.
maybe this summer.
He's a guy, though, so that helps.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think my daughters would freak out.
Yes, I think so.
I think
My
they
daughters
would freak out.
too.
I think so, because I think for a guy, when you're 12, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid, whereas girls
Yeah.
are no, I'm not watching this.
Yeah.
Well, at least the girls I know, this
Well,
too
I
far.
must admit,
Well,
I don't mean to make this
Let's not address this
But I mean-
gender question at the moment.
Speaking of freaking out,
Yes?
what was your initial reaction to the movie?
Oh, okay. Yes, initial reactions.
I mean, that would be because like you
Yeah,
said,
go
that
ahead.
we don't know. I mean, who? Carrie?
well,
go
like
ahead.
I say, you mentioned when you watched the third one or first.
second one, Aliens.
And I was trying to. I know that the second one was the first of the movies that I watched,
Yeah, me too.
and then I went back and watched the first. And I remember that the third came out in the theater later, so it must have been when I was a middle teenager. But I don't have any actual memory of. I remember thinking that I remember recalling my dad's comment that they looked like crabs and thinking he was wrong. But I don't remember any other particular reaction to the movie. It just
reaction.
kind of fulfilled my expectations. So, yeah, not a big story here.
I remember hearing about Alien through a friend who had seen it on TV or rented it, or his parents let him rent it. and he kept raving about this guy, like at this moment where Kane, he's eating and then it comes out of him and it's amazing. It's
Yes,
and,
yes.
and, yeah,
My dad
yeah,
talked
they
about the
were
rib
so-
cage
yeah.
bursting open. Yes,
Because of like the man giving birth, it was so like novel and amazing and all that. And my friend was into horror movies, and I remember remembering that. And when I turned on the TV, and it was Aliens was on PT, it was like, oh, this is the movie where it's gonna blow out of people's chests and all that. So I had to watch it. It was like a dare, like you said. And then when my mother came in at the right time, because it's like the worst part where, you know, Bishop gets ripped to shreds and everything. And it was a challenge. I was by myself in the house. I was like, I gotta watch this. This is amazing. And I was scared shitless, but then Mom came in, so that helped.
You were
So
how
we
old?
about 11.
11, okay.
And then we finished watching the movie, and the one thing I'll never forget was it was pretty funny. We went to bed, and we both like closed our doors, and we both woke up more or less at the same time. When we opened the door, we both jumped because we remembered. Like I remember, I slept that night, but I slept very restlessly. Like I was restless. I was just I probably had nightmares or whatever. But I remember waking up. We both woke up at the same time and like, you know, like we jumped. And we're like, yeah, and we laughed. Then we're like, yeah, fucking movie, man, like that fucking movie. Like, cause we're both freaking out because when Ripley fights the Queen, but yeah, I know the focus is on Alien, but
mecha warrior thing.
Exactly, and it was fun because you want the humans to win, you know, like get away from her, you bitch, you know.
oh
and
my
it's,
god,
it's
the
so
most
good.
iconic
Yeah.
line
So
from the whole
good.
series. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
All right.
so
What
that
was your first reaction there, Leslie?
Well, like I said yesterday, you asked me, what did you think of the movie? And I was like, I don't remember much because I watched it maybe like 3 or 4 months ago, and I rewatched it yesterday, so that's why it's so fresh in my mind right now. But I just remembered the chest busting sequence, which is pretty.
It's pretty much what
Yeah, pretty
people
intense.
come back to that.
Well,
it's the one
it's
thing.
the
It was
most-
so
Yeah.
unexpected, right?
Yes, absolutely.
At the
when
time,
it
yeah.
first was released.
well, apparently the actors didn't
It was
quite know what
it
was going to happen,
That's
unexpected to
right.
them,
The way
too.
they filmed
Yeah.
it, they capitalized on that unexpected
and they
aspect.
hosed the actors with blood on purpose. They just like Veronica Cartwright just gets completely
Her
splattered with blood, and
reaction
she
in
had
the
no
movie
idea.
is genuine.
It's genuine.
Right.
She's terrified.
Yeah.
She has no idea
That's
what's
right.
going on.
Right.
Yeah, that's in the
Yeah.
making
Oh,
of. Yeah, they talk
fantastic.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know for you guys, but when the face hugger just leaves his face and then he's sort of okay and stuff like that, I didn't believe it for a second that he was okay. Like when he comes to the table, it's like there's something's gonna
Oh,
happen.
Of
sure.
course.
That's
Yeah,
the
of course.
the
Of course.
traditional horror trope, right?
Yeah.
They set you up to know that no, it can't be
It's
okay.
all peaceful
Yeah.
and supper, no way.
Yeah, exactly.
The calm before the storm.
That's
Yeah,
that's
that's
a great
what they're
way to
setting
put it.
up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember my initial reaction to the movie. I remember not enjoying Alien as much as Aliens the first time around, because
I agree.
probably
Yeah.
because at that age, I mean, at 18 years old, you're more into you're a little bit more naive when it comes to movies, in my opinion. You're not necessarily
fair.
looking for the same things. You're
No.
in the spur of the moment. You're trying to find something that's a little bit more active, action oriented, and
Yeah,
whatnot.
you want action movies.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember enjoying Aliens more, but then I remember the next day remembering more about the first movie.
Yeah.
Which means, like, in hindsight, I was probably more affected by the first one. You know, it was very creepy. You know, it wasn't as action oriented.
No,
so
they're very different. That's true.
Yeah, very different.
Yep.
I think what helped me appreciate Alien, the original Alien, was actually Alien 3. Because much like you, when I saw Alien 3, I saw it at the theater. My 16-year-old brain, that didn't know about lit theory, didn't know about, you know, movie criticism and all that, I was watching this movie and thinking, this is amazing. It's about religion and
Right.
Ripley almost got raped, and like to me, like it felt deep and really intense. But we can all agree that now it's shit. You know, we all like
Alien
most
3?
I wouldn't
Alien
go
3
that
is
even
far.
agree that
Fincher
it's shit.
agrees with you.
Yeah, exactly. But
He
for a
directed
while,
the movie.
but my 16-year-old brain thought it was amazing, and for a long time I thought Alien 3 was my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it made me appreciate Alien because then in college in Cégep at Garneau, I saw it in a movie class. She showed Alien. That's the thing. And then, now I get it. And then we went in. That's when I was starting to get interested into film studies and lit and all that. And we dissected the movie in class, and I was like, yeah, this is going somewhere.
Absolutely.
And that idea of like pseudo idea of religion in Alien 3 made me appreciate Alien more, because there is something going on in Alien 3 about, corporations, secrecy and things like that. There's a lot going on.
I enjoyed the role of religion too. It's definitely not a primary theme, but I do find.
Well, what I meant was religion in the third one.
Oh, sorry. That's...
Like the
it's just in the beliefs that actually you're in prison and whatnot. So it acts as metaphors of
like that. There's this kind of like they were trying to make it second, third.
Level of they have levels, but no, the levels are just they're in their heads, but not really on screen.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
And then the first one, it's like, okay, this is way better. This is the original.
So if you were talking about all 7, if you take Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Alien vs Predator, Alien vs Predator 2, and Prometheus.
Oh my God, you're thinking the versus Predators.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'm just saying, if you were to choose, if you were to name one that you would constantly go back to, or 2, which ones would they be? You mentioned that Alien 3 was one that you revisited. Now, in hindsight, which would you, Jason?
Alien and Prometheus. For me.
Okay.
Can we add Prometheus to
the...
Yeah, that's the 7. Yeah.
Okay.
I consider Alien 7.
Okay.
Okay, so Alien and
0.5.
Prometheus. Okay, we're going to have to debate Prometheus.
No,
it's a lot of people give it a lot of flack. You?
Alien Prometheus.
Carrie?
Well, I look at it from the context of when I watch them, perhaps. Because I agree that the first one definitely has... it's better for an academic analysis, perhaps, because it treats what's going on with more depth. At the time, my favorite has always been number 2. However, as we were saying, it's more of an action movie, and especially when I was a teenager and in my 20s, but even today, I really like well done action movies.
Right.
Not like Snatch, Two Barrels, whatever the fuck.
Come on, those are great movies. But let's
they're
not bring them into this. Let's not drag Guy Ritchie into the conversation.
When I say that I like action movies, I don't mean the worst of.
I think those are comedies, though.
Furious kind of thing?
Yeah, that would be more along the lines.
No, I hate
that's what I mean. Yeah,
okay.
Those are bad. Yeah.
Yeah, but
spoiler alert: Carrie hates Fast and Furious.
Yeah, but so for the canon of Aliens, I did always like number 2 best, because you get more creature. You get more up close contact and heightened reactions. Also, I really liked number 2 because of the Queen, because you saw the interiority of that space and the way they transformed the space and made it their own.
That was impressive.
So you learn more about the creature itself, whereas the first one is really a teaser. And I love the movies because I love the creature. So I guess because you get so much of the creature in the second one, that is part of what makes it really my favorite. I also found the survivor little girl very interesting. Yeah. This sounds like it's going way off on a tangent, but I in grade 5 I had the most brilliant teacher of my life, and she continued to be a very influential person in my life. And she talked about the Holocaust in ways that were far more real and far more, they had an enormous impact on me, because as a little kid, I tried to grasp the reality of what the Holocaust situation would be. And that was very difficult. And so I guess the Newt character, the little girl who is like the only one who survives.
That's right.
I kind of saw that through those eyes. That girl is such a transformed creature.
Of course.
With the hollowed out eyes and the dirty face. And the fact that she survives is really incredible. And when you think about the kinds of skills, the innate skills that little girl has to do that, I just found was a very interesting element that was brought into that movie. So.
Wow. Yeah,
just like
Alien Holocaust. Yeah,
because that teacher, Luanne Rode, she would actually say, because you know how you've got the kids in the class that are like the little shits that are always in trouble and blah blah blah, and she would even say things like, in our context here, we see that as a problem, but you know what? That is the kind of personality trait that would make that child survive in the Holocaust. And it would be like,
in
whoa,
a Holocaust or like a zombie,
right?
zombie apocalypse.
And little Newt she's not the one that's going to be causing problems in class. So but it does cause you to like think about what made that little girl survive, whereas others didn't. And so when I saw the director's cut of the second one, they bring in those scenes of the family of Newt before they get killed, which and that's not in the theatrical cut at all.
And it should be.
It should be,
I
because
think it's great.
otherwise you enter the movie and it's just like, oh, there's the planet that we lost some colonizers, whereas you really get more of a sense, you get more of that backstory anyway, so I appreciate that. But I think I'm going to have to stick with the second one as being my favorite.
All right, cool. Leslie?
Well, since I've only seen the first one, I guess that's my favorite.
Oh, that's okay.
All right. Is there any specific reason why you enjoy the movie itself?
Yeah, I guess we were talking about inversions earlier.
Yeah.
I think that's what caught my attention the most. The names of the name of the ship, the name of the people. I like the alien. Obviously, it's really cool. It has all these. I wasn't expecting that kind of creature when I first sat down to watch the movie. I was expecting more of a, I guess, green guy kind of thing. And I knew it was old, right? So
it is a guy in a suit, but
you're
it's
right.
It's going to
It's
be
old,
this.
so
I was expecting something.
some cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
They went out of their way, though. I mean, there was a big thing in the '60s where they had these bug-eyed monster movies.
Oh,
it's like one of the biggest things.
Big joke. Yeah.
Exactly, and so I think by hiring Geiger, they really like Scott was. I really want to get away from this.
Yeah.
Right.
I want people to take us
Something
seriously.
new,
We need something new. We need something menacing. So he's
But you
presenting his head
mentioned
first.
you mentioned the name of the ship.
Yeah, the Nostromo.
Yeah.
Nostromo, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly.
Nostromo.
It's just because, I was sort of looking into the meanings of the names earlier, and I was interested in, it sounds like, in Spanish, it's nuestros, in French, nous, notre. I was like trying to figure out like what it was, and so I thought, I looked it up, and nostrum is sort of a Latin word that means of our own making.
Of our own making.
Yeah, and which is a fun dichotomy, because you have the alien, which is other, like of an other origin,
and yet
otherness,
and then yourself.
Exactly, of our own making. So it's
it's also, that ties to the Prometheus idea that the alien was a weapon they created.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So wow.
Yeah, looking into that, it was kind of interesting because even Nostromo in Italian means shipmate.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right, so it's kind of interesting that it would bring that in. And Nostromo is actually a book written by Joseph Conrad as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that Nostromo, the person himself, is in charge of smuggling silver out of Sulaco.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny, in
James
James Cameron, that's the name of the ship.
That's
in
right.
Aliens is Sulaco.
Aliens, it's
so he's
Sulaco.
kind of tipping the hat to the idea of Joseph Conrad continuity.
But I mean, and the first name that popped into my head before I started looking in other names was the Kane, because I thought it was interesting. He's the first, like in the opening shots, you have like the planet, you sort of move across, and then at one point you get into the ship, and you see, when they're all sort of in their, I don't know what they're called, their pods, and then the pods sort of open, and the first guy you see out is Cain, and Cain was Adam and Eve's firstborn, and then the first thing you hear with regards to him is that someone tells him, "You look dead." And it's sort of like...
Yeah, like you look like shit.
Foreshadowing is...
his
he
first
sort of
line
marked,
is, I feel dead,
I feel
and
dead.
his partner tells him, you look dead.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was sort of, foreshadowing that. It's as if he's marked from the beginning.
He's marked from the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny because Kane, they write it K-A-N-E.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't even write K.
Like Citizen Kane to a certain extent.
See, and I am the kind of person that, like, I won't make the connection because it's spelled differently.
Okay.
Whoosh, goes right over my head.
Yeah.
Well, I understand, because it's not, obviously, I only thought of it after. Like, while you're watching the movie, you don't necessarily make those links either. But
Is that something like in horror movies, like B movies, where the girl who's marked, like who's killed first, are there always signs that she's the one who's going to die first? Does she say things like in horror movies? Like, because Kane
I-
is the
hard
first.
to
Because
say.
it's inversion, right? Like,
Yeah.
then the guy
Yeah,
dies
I
first.
know, and I think it's a fun inversion too, because at the end, the final shot is of the girl going back in her pod. Ripley
Ripley goes back.
Yeah, and she's like, because she was all sweaty because she had run, like she was obviously like scared shitless. And then she gets washed, she takes off all her clothes, and then she just enters the pod, and she looks like, almost newborn. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like she's
it's
reborn by killing. Like, it's like killing and then you...
Exactly, and then...
Well, and there's a Sleeping Beauty
yes,
absolutely.
Sleeping
Well,
Beauty reference.
I think in the second movie, somebody at some point even calls her Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, that's in the second.
Maybe at the
they
very
call her second
beginning,
Sleeping
possibly,
Beauty.
or when they wake up. Oh,
Yeah.
isn't it when everyone wakes up?
Yeah,
like
I
everyone,
think so.
some guy comes in and, all right, Sleeping Beauties or something like that.
I don't
Maybe
know.
We'd have to check that.
Because
anyway.
she was literally under glass.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
like they
yeah.
were.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because even the opening pause that she mentions with Kane at the beginning, if you were to take a shot just from the top with those things, they actually look like flower petals.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So
They
the idea
open
that you were
up.
talking about this alien being being more like bees in a sense,
Yeah.
right? So this idea that their pollination process is finished.
Yeah.
Right? And
Well,
this
it
birthing
is
process.
tied to the alien life cycle because when they're captured and put into the alien like hive, if we want to hive structure, if we
Yep.
want to call it that, once again they're like encased, within the circular kind
Absolutely.
Yeah.
of body casing that keeps them in stasis, right? So.
Yeah.
You mean the weird thing that opens up when the facehugger comes out?
No, I mean
Or are
just
you
like when
talking
they're
about
stuck
it
to the
Well,
wall.
yeah, and
Oh,
we
okay,
see it in
yeah.
Aliens.
But I mean, there are so many
cocoon
structures
type things that
formed
they
yeah, it's like,
that.
they're
throughout the
cocoons.
movie.
True.
They're
Yeah.
chrysalis,
Yeah, some sort of chrysalis.
They
Yeah.
get
And
cocooned.
yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the womb, and I mean, there are so many references to that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Well,
and just the liquid. Like, there's so much liquid in that movie. Like
Yeah,
when
there's
the
a
face
lot of
hugger gets
liquid.
cut, like when they try to take it
Yeah.
off. There's
The
just
acid blood.
yeah, obviously it bleeds acid. When Ash is killed, he sort of squirts some weird white
It's
liquid.
milk. It's basically milk. Like this,
Yeah, I know.
practical
Well, it's
effects, but I know what
android
you mean.
blood.
It's an android.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then when
Android blood.
right before Brett is Brett his name? Yeah, he goes looking for Jones the
Oh, this
cat,
is good.
and then at one point he sort of looks up and like the
There's water
cat is
dripping on
hiding
him.
and he's trying to get
Well,
the
it's
cat, and there's
chains-
just like
chains and
yeah,
water.
chains and water. But that's the first time you actually see the alien
Yep.
before he
And his
attacks.
tail
right.
comes down.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Is it its tail or its head?
It's
It's
like
tail, yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
both. Like
Yeah,
the tail
lower.
first,
And
and,
you
then the
sorta have-
head.
But it's hard to tell what
Yeah.
it is
It's hard to tell
because it's
'cause
there's
just
chains
this.
in the
Yeah.
water.
Yeah, because he told me, look,
As a-
you can see it. I was
As a
like, where?
first-time viewer,
Yeah.
you cannot.
You're right.
spot
Yeah, you
No.
can't
the
spot it.
xenomorph
Yeah,
at
no.
all.
That's right.
You're just
That's
seeing
right.
something dangling, and you take
Yeah.
it for granted, like, oh, it's just a chain or
It's
whatever.
It's
something.
just
Yeah.
technological
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when the
Machinery.
alien is actually thrown out of the shuttle when when
Yeah.
only Ripley's in it,
Yeah.
it's sort of like it goes into space and there's water
There's
sort
water.
of on the alien. It's like inverse from
It's
the
the
first
rocket. Yeah, the shot of the rocket.
Shot. Yeah, probably
like,
heat or something.
hitting
Yeah.
The alien, and then
Ah.
it bursts into like it's like his acid blood falling onto the camera.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the visual language of Alien.
Yeah.
Alien is my personal favorite. I enjoy Prometheus as well. And I think the reason why I love Alien is because the visual language is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very claustrophobic, the way it's
Yes.
shot.
And that's
You'll
intentional.
Have,
Well,
you'll have a
Ridley-
lot
yeah,
of
that's what
shots
Ridley
that are going
Scott
to be
said.
wide shots, and then they're going to actually go into close shots pretty much the entire movie. Okay, the
Well,
wide shots
yeah.
are supposed to show these grandiose spaces when they actually meet the engineer for the first time
That's
in the
right.
room, and then after that you see the whole eggs where they actually with that little blue haze that they have over
That's
it.
weird.
Yeah, it's,
Well,
I didn't
it's
really
actually
get what
really
it-
Like when Kane crosses it, that wakes up an egg. Is that possible?
It could be possible, but at the
It's
same time, I mean,
suggested, absolutely.
It's suggested.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, this idea
Like,
of
it's
crossing the border.
trespassing. He's
It's
trespassing.
kind of also that idea of infiltration for the
Yeah.
first time. You know,
And- yeah.
we could actually look at
Literally,
it as it's literally fingering. In a sense,
But
yes.
especially he
It's
gets
a-
down and he's
Foreplay,
like,
it's foreplay.
Yeah.
We'll call it foreplay. Yeah, Kane's foreplay. But
Because
it's
he gets right in the face of that egg too.
yes,
Oh, yeah, he-
which is
Like,
a dumbass
what's
move.
this?
Like, yeah, he
Right.
just literally stands over
Yeah.
it, and you have all the
It's chicken
Yeah.
darts.
yeah.
Like,
Make
especially
up
when he
the-
sees it's moving, like, I would be the first one
He's
to
Oh, I
like,
know.
like,
Yeah,
boy.
yes, get the hell out of there. Yeah.
Yet at the same time, it's fascinating though. It's
Yeah,
fascinating.
it is from far away. I mean, who wants
Yeah,
to?
yeah.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I really enjoy Alien is because I'm a huge Hitchcock fan, and
Yeah.
I think that Alien in and of itself is very Hitchcockian as a movie,
Okay.
with the way that it builds suspense and how it actually teases a bunch of people into believing that there's danger around. I think one of the best,
There is,
the
yeah.
best instances, there is danger around, but one of the best instances in the movie is when the facehugger actually has finished its job.
Yes.
Of
Yes.
incubating.
Yes. I jumped.
You know,
anyway, I know what
John
you're
Hurt.
heading for.
When
When
it
it
falls
falls
from
from
You're
the
talking about-
ceiling?
Not really, no. It's actually
Or-
before that. When they're actually going around,
Yeah.
Ripley is actually going towards Kane. Dallas is heading off screen.
Yes.
And then there's a garbage that falls.
Right.
Bang!
And everybody jumps. Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Everyone
jump.
jumps
I
in
jump all
because
the
you're
time.
expecting to the facehugger to jump out
creature or
again.
something, yeah.
Exactly. And off screen he says he's sorry. And it sounds
Yeah.
like he's apologizing to the audience and not necessarily to Ripley, which is really
It's like
fun.
a double. Yeah. That's right. Oh,
Yeah.
it's really.
And I thought that one of the interesting sequences in the movie was, if we're looking at just suggestive visual language,
Yeah.
the first time we're actually shown the alien.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the xenomorph. We'll call it the xenomorph because,
Sure.
as discussed
Well,
with
that's what
Leslie
they.
earlier,
That's what they call it. Yeah.
because alien itself, we don't know if the humans are the alien, if the atmosphere is the alien, the ship is the
That's
alien.
right.
Who's invading who? We have no idea.
That's right.
Right? I think that's clear when we actually watch the movie. Obviously, we're going to side with the humans. Because who's going to be like, you know what? I kind of understand that this big, giant black thing is making interesting points. I get this. I get why it's murdering these people. No one's ever going to say that.
Well, that comes
Except for
later.
Ash.
Yeah,
Except
but,
for
not
Ash.
a
but that's why I want to
sympathetic
talk. I want
creature.
to talk about that, but later. We'll get to Ash later. I don't
the
know.
interesting thing to me is that the
Do you
way
wanna
that
talk about Ash, or do you want?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway.
the way that sequence is that the camera shot is actually from above the alien,
Okay.
where it's actually dangling in these chains,
Yeah.
right? And this shows that at that moment in time, there has been a shift in the food chain.
Yeah, because it's fully matured.
It's fully
no
matured,
longer a little
and
freaky
usually
little
humans
creature.
are at the top of the food chain. They're the one dictating the terms to whatever they're usually in control,
chain, okay, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so they're never prey.
No.
We are never prey. We're very, very seldom prey.
Or
That's right.
unless you're in
That's
a science fiction movie.
There's that.
Yeah. yeah
But
so-
at this point, these people have never been in that kind of danger before.
You're right. Yeah,
And
for
so
them,
the,
for them, yeah.
the
For them.
xenomorph at this point has, by showing him at the top, literally in chains.
in chains. Yeah.
We
That's
have this
good.
shift in the food
That's-
chain.
We're now.
We're
yeah,
now
the
prey. We're
victims.
now
prey.
fair game in
Yeah,
a sense.
That's right.
And I thought that was
That's very
very interesting to show the alien the first time. The same way that whenever we're introduced to the facehugger, the way that John Hurt actually falls back, the way that Kane falls back,
Yeah.
you have this toppling of the person with the facehugger coming on
Oh,
top.
you're right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When he's
It's
shown on the
always on
slab,
top.
it's always
It's
on
never
top.
coming up
never
from
coming from
underneath.
above.
Yeah. No. It's
Cameron,
always from top.
Cameron
Except
does
the
it in
tail.
Aliens. Cameron
Yeah.
does it in
Yeah.
Aliens.
He
Oh,
does
really?
the opposite.
Yeah.
It comes from
It comes
above?
from actually, it jumps from the floor onto someone.
and that's when they.
But then they
isn't
probably
that when they
fall
shoot?
backwards, right?
Yeah.
They do fall backwards, yeah.
Yeah.
But the attack, it's one of those things. When it's in the egg, it's down. He hits himself over it, and then
And
after that, the
yeah,
inversion
that's
is
right.
created
Okay.
out of the egg.
That's right.
But you never see the face hugger or anything like that below. The alien
Right.
always presents its head first, and then it looks up. But it
True.
always towers
Yeah,
over
you're
its
right.
prey.
True.
So this inversion
Right.
of the food chain, I thought, was a very interesting thing. The way that Scott designed his shots to
Yeah.
show that brings it menacing. And one of the weird things that he does actually is he's actually placing the camera at people's knees, right? So the threat is actually telling us to look above,
Oh,
to
yeah.
constantly
yeah.
look above.
So you're constantly getting this wide, weird shot from the knee. You have like this Western shot in a sense.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
Scott, by positioning his camera low, he's giving us the cue that the
Yeah,
threat is never
yeah.
from down low. It's always going to be from above.
Yeah. But like you said, it's always
Yeah.
the character always sort of is looking around at eye level, and then at one point you realize like, oh shit, this thing is up, you know.
Right.
It's a-
Except
Right.
the cat always knows where the thing is.
The cat always knows.
He's
where
Cat
always looking
seems to
up,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cat Jones.
Which, that is interesting that
Yeah.
they use a cat as the animal signaler because
Yeah, that knows there's
always
something
people
around.
use
Even in the
use
second one,
dogs.
they do that.
Right,
Yeah.
it's the dog that barks that lets you know that the monster's outside the door. Whereas this time they use a cat.
It's
So
a hissing cat.
So
That's
again, that's
creepy.
back to the reversal, right? Like we're
Yeah.
using the same kind of trope as the animal herald of the beast, but it's a cat instead of the dog.
But isn't there an instance? Well, but this would make sense. when the alien does come from above, it's when the facehugger has done its job
Yeah.
and
Yes,
it's
it's
now
right.
dead.
Yeah.
But it's no longer a threat because it's dead, right?
But it still feels like a threat the way that
Well,
it's
the
presented,
tail
right?
falls. We get finally there's the trash can and then the tail, but then it's dead. So it's like it's still like it's meant to scare us, but it's not quite.
But it's kind
It's
of
not the alien
It's
yet.
the false scare, right?
It's the
Which
false.
is a
It's
trope
like
in
the,
horror
the
movies.
false scare.
You've got something that leaps
like,
out
oh,
at
it's,
you, and everybody goes, and then
oh,
you
it's a
realize,
squirrel.
oh, it's
It's a
no
squirrel.
big deal.
Yeah,
And then 2
exactly.
seconds later, boom,
that's
the real
boom.
big
They
deal.
use
gets-
it in Alien as well with the cat. Jones.
Yeah.
Jones is supposed to be this
Oh my,
idea of
every
security
time
to the
it
service.
makes us jump.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh god, it was Jones.
Right,
Well,
and then it
aliens,
relaxes you
yeah.
for a moment,
Yeah.
and that's when they hit you with the real.
Yeah.
They do it every time.
When Jones
But it works.
hisses in the second one, I remember being a kid like, oh no, here it comes,
Yeah.
and then it's a
Yeah.
bad dream, and so there's always
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that.
but that's
fake-
one thing that I don't
Yes,
understand.
Scare.
the opening scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But that's one thing I don't understand because I mean we see the cat hissing 3 times and every time the alien is near, you know, and when Ripley comes into the she goes into the shuttle and she's like hugging the cat, she's like come here, and you know, and the cat hisses like
Yeah,
how can
yeah.
she not know that the alien is in the ship?
something's happening.
right.
She just puts it in one of those like glass
Oh.
cubicles.
Yeah.
And then
like,
at one
yeah,
point she
whatever.
sees it move, like she puts her hand and the weird claw comes out. Yeah.
And speaking of the cat, Leslie, you had an interesting theory about Jones. Apparently, his name is significant in some
Yeah.
way.
Jones
Yeah.
the cat.
Jones the
Yeah,
cat.
Jones
yeah,
the
exactly.
cat.
It's because where I started off was the Cain and Abel, and I was trying to find other significant names in the whole thing, and I thought
Religious?
Jones,
Or-
religious, yeah, religious themed, and so I thought Jones. Because I was like, the cat in some way is related to every time we see the cat, it hisses, it hides,
senses
and then
the alien?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Okay.
sort of every time the alien appears closely after, and then I was like, maybe there's a link with Jones and John the Baptist, and then I went to read up a little bit on John the Baptist and the way he announces, like, he's basically the Messiah. He's like, you guys, there's this guy who's going to come, and you should follow him, you should believe in
He
him.
heralds the Messiah.
Exactly,
Heralds
yeah.
the Messiah,
and but the thing is that it's sort of the inverse because he's sort of
heralding
the end. Yeah, exactly.
The end, yeah.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
death,
And
yeah.
and the first time that happens when the cat we see the alien is when it's some sort of baptism scene, right? Where the water falls on Brett's head and he's like, and then he drinks a little bit of it.
He wipes his brow.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
Oh,
he
you're
And
right.
that's when
drinks
the alien, we
Yeah.
see it for even though I didn't see it for
Yeah.
the first time because you can't really, you don't know what the alien looks like yet, so you can't really see
Right.
it. But once you watch it a second time, then you realize,
He's baptized by the
Oh,
alien.
Exactly.
Oh, more inversions.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
All right.
Do you guys think that there's any more religious symbolism? Well, we obviously have Cain.
Oh.
Now we have Jones. That could actually possibly be John the Baptist to a certain extent. This idea of a warning of the Antichrist's coming, if you
Yeah,
will.
it's the Antichrist, yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Would there be any other implications that are religious in this? Because I know they permeate Prometheus. That is for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Elizabeth Shaw. This idea that she's religious, she always has the cross and whatnot.
That's right.
So there must be some sort of other religious
I
symbolism. Is
don't,
there anything there?
I don't think
Anything
that
that you guys can come up with?
I don't think that it's that religious. I think maybe it's atheist more than anything
More than
else.
anything. Okay.
Because of this whole idea of nihilistic destruction that embodies the alien. It just is, you know, it's meant, it's built for destruction. And
Yeah.
just the
what
impregnation by
That's
through
right.
the mouth.
Yeah.
Isn't that maybe not religious in itself, but I mean, there's
is
no
it
penetration.
baptism? I don't
there's-
know.
I mean, usually religion is associated, or in religious contexts, nature is associated with God's gift to man. And so nature is the symbol of God's goodness, God's handwriting, everything that is good and beneficial. And so in this case, you have a creature who, in contrast to man, represents nature, and yet that's the embodiment of evil, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
senseless destruction.
That's right.
And everything that, like you say, like the cat heralds the devil. So I agree with you. I get a sense that it's very atheistic, God really doesn't have any.
Maybe nihilistic. Maybe.
Well, yeah, I like
Well,
yeah, I like
Yeah.
nihilistic more than but
Yeah.
but atheism in a sense is not so much anti-God as
No,
God just
that's
isn't
it.
part of the picture.
It's just not there. Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So and so that's why I think the role of religion is kind of interesting in the third one because
Yeah,
they're
that's right. I
bringing
think that's
in
what they tried to research.
but it's almost like a fifth wheel
yeah.
because it's powerless.
It doesn't go anywhere.
No, it doesn't go anywhere. So you could argue that it's bad writing.
It's like
but-
yeah.
But or it kind of emphasizes just how out
It's
of
like a
place.
code for the criminals so they won't, stray or something. I don't know.
Okay.
It's so bad. It's
I'm going
just
to
so
argue.
bad.
I'm going to argue that there
Anyway.
is religious symbolism, just in the
Okay.
fact
Sure,
that the crew
sure.
members are 7. 7 is something that comes up in scripture quite a bit. The idea
Okay.
that it's the number that actually alludes to completion. Right? The
Okay.
7 days of the week. The fact that man was created on the 6th day shows that God is actually always going to be a little bit better. He rests on the 7th. So 6 is always that one thing, the problem, right? Which would explain why Ripley actually
What do you mean
stays
6
alive.
is the problem?
That's when
Uh,
man was created.
Man was created.
Oh, man is
he'll
the
never
problem.
be. He'll
Man
be
is the fallen
He'll-
part of
yeah,
so
exactly.
six.
He'll be
Oh, okay.
the image of God, but he'll never be
Yes.
God himself.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so the fact that if we look at the xenomorph as this 8th passenger, as they so eloquently named the French
I
version,
used to have a T-shirt that said
huitième
"and
passager."
on the 8th day," and it was a picture of an alien. It wasn't related to
way.
the movie.
it's kind of interesting,
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
they had
amazing.
that idea, and
Alien from the movie?
No,
or-
it wasn't
okay,
related to the
okay.
movie, but
Okay.
it
I
ties
like
into
that.
what you're saying,
I
Jason.
like
That's
that,
amazing.
and we were talking about inversions a little bit earlier, and I like the idea that even in I don't remember if it's Italian or if it's in Spanish, but anyway, the when it says nostro uomo, if we're going with the name of the ship
Yes.
again,
Italian.
nostro, it's in Italian. Nostro uomo actually means our man. So the
man,
idea that
okay.
this is going again to our creation, and that because we're trying to imitate God with the creations, actually
Yes.
tackling and trying to modify these things and beat them into our
Image?
Like
yeah,
understanding
Yeah.
of
to
life
get them
or
to work
whatever,
for us. The idea that the corporation is
slave.
actually wants this thing in order to militarize it.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
only
yeah.
create destruction.
Or Prometheus, the idea that those aliens created the alien, the xenomorph that became so destructive. Same type of thing. Like,
Yeah.
or mankind creates but fails abysmally
Hubris. It
every
will always
time.
fall.
Every
it's
time
that,
we try to create.
ancient idea of hubris again, right?
yeah.
Exactly,
It fucks
right?
us in the anyway.
Yeah, but it does. It does. To a
Well,
sense.
the
That's
alien
why I
would
think
fuck us
that-
in the mouth. That would. Yeah. Basically, yeah. There you go. There you go.
Very good.
But it's funny that you mentioned that, Jason, because originally there was no Ash. There was no robot in the script.
Right.
And this was something that was added by the studio writers or the producers, Walter Hill and David Giler. So they were 6 at first. But don't you think that
You're right.
this idea of 7, and well, I really like to study archetypes. And this idea of 7, lucky 7, religious symbolism in 7. Like, isn't
The
it
idea
just...
of completion. So.
Yeah, and isn't it like just we naturally go towards those symbols like 7 and like the 7 deadly sins
Absolutely.
and there's something there that is unconscious, I think.
You mean that it wasn't put there on purpose, but like just...
What- I think the Hill and Giler just added that the robot to add tension to the story. They
Okay,
said,
but,
let's...
but what about at the end?
That's
not
my
on
I don't
record.
know.
You're absolutely right, because even like when the original
It's in the
script
making
with
of.
yeah, even like in the original script, O'Bannon he didn't even have girls. It didn't have females, women.
That's
were
right.
Not even part of the
That's
script.
right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were actually going through. Scott was like, okay, we have to look at what's going on right now in the news. And there was a lot of union problems going on in the UK at that point. Like gas prices were like through the roof. Because even in the original script, there wasn't even an oil refinery. They actually changed the oil ship, the Nostromo, to fit in with what was actually going on in the UK at that point.
At that
and
time.
because like women were at women's rights, civil rights, and all
That's
that
right.
stuff, so they included a black man, they included 2 women. Things like that, in
Well,
order
those-
to
these
kind
were
of
the-
go
those-
into as afterthoughts, just to actually
These
like,
were
hone
studio
into the-
clauses. These were studio clauses that were again like O'Bannon had nothing to do with it. So, and every time the studio would add something, they would get mad at them. Like there was this rift between the two parties, the writers and the producers. But this is a good example of actually studio interference going well, doing well.
Good point. Very good point.
Definitely.
I like
because Ash added so much to the story, and I think it's my favorite. He's my favorite character.
Okay, explain why.
Yeah.
Why Ash?
Well, first of all, we excuse me, we find out he's a robot. And
an android, technically, because he looks
Thank you
identical
very much.
to a
Thank
human.
you very much.
Okay, we'll get into that.
Well, he says, is it Parker says he's a robot? He's a goddamn robot, or something like that.
Yes,
anyway,
that's exactly.
I think it's because it's to help the audience understand what's going on.
Sure.
Android's probably too tech for them,
and to set up the fact
future.
that they're greeted with animosity. Because
That's right.
you never know. You have to be given the context, right?
That's
because
right.
there's plenty of sci-fi that warmly welcomes their androids.
That's right. And when you know that Ash is an android, the second time around, it adds such a great level to the movie, and it just helps the movie develop even further, and it adds to the questions and all that. And that's why he's my favorite character. And the fact that he knows about the alien and Mother knows about the alien. I mean, I think that's what Hill and Geiler wanted to get to, is that it's not the creature which is the scariest thing. It's the fact that humans already knew about this alien. So, which brings us back to the definition of what is alien. You know, what Leslie mentioned about.
And at the same time, just to bring it back to
I think it's great. I think
the idea
it's
of
a great
completion
idea.
and the number 7, it is Ash who says that the alien is a perfect organism.
It's a perfect organism.
Yeah.
He's a robot. He's a robot, and he feels envy. He loves
the robot
he loves,
is considered to be the perfect
exactly
creature
right.
in a lot of these kind of futuristic.
He's speaking about perfection. He's an android or / robot, and he's talking about perfection. Like,
right.
This creature is better than all of us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he says, "You're all going to die, but whatever. Like, I love this. I admire this creature because it's pure. You know?
This also calls
pure.
back to the old idea that the contrast often created in science fiction, especially older science fiction, between the robot whose major flaw is that they're so focused on perfection that it's to the detriment of everything else, and they'll end up killing society or being a dangerous threat because they're so narrowly focused on some kind of unrealistic idea of perfection that they'll allow everybody to die, basically. And that it calls back to the really, really old-fashioned, like 1950s idea that machines were going to be able to achieve perfection. That perfection was a simplistic idea that some simple algorithm and machine was going to be able to imitate, which we've kind of surpassed now, right? Because we've realized that there is no such thing as perfection. It's super subjective. Postmodern theory and postmodern perspectives have kind of taken on this multifaceted, like there is no single ideal. And so when they're using this robot or android or whatever, Ash, to talk about a perfect organism, it's really anachronistic in my ears because that's retarded. But maybe the movie is making that comment, and he's clearly flawed, right? Because he obviously is not assessing this alien correctly.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if is this a personal agenda in spite of the fact that he's a robot? Does he have a personal agenda?
Or
is this for him?
Is he programmed?
To have a personal agenda about it?
And that's why you can never trust robots. Because they might be programmed to have the wrong idea.
He's programmed to be excited about this robot kind of thing,
Right.
and even Mother knows the motherboard, the mother computer, which is creepy because mothers are so trustworthy and.
And I've heard too
except
that
inversion,
aliens'
except Norman Bates.
I can think of a few.
Yeah. Well, I could talk about that too. I've heard that Alien's mother is supposed to be like the inverse of 2000. And one is Hal.
Yeah.
Because Hal is the father computer.
Yes, he is a father
computer. And
computer,
so Mother is the female version. And we were talking before, I'm not sure if it's on here, but about how Alien is so much about inversion of gender,
Yeah, of course.
an inversion of roles, and so I think Mother is an inversion of Hal for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the inspiration is there. The slowness of the movie is inspired by 2001.
Okay, you're right. Yeah,
Yeah, but at the same time, yes, it's inspired by 2001, but if you're going with the inversion of gender and things like that, it's actually kind of interesting because if you compare 2001 to Alien,
Yeah.
okay, just on the ship's innards, the insides
Oh, yeah?
of the ships. Kind of interesting because Kubrick, when you look at his movies, everything is polished.
Of course,
Even the
yeah.
inside of the ship in 2001 A Space Odyssey, how... If you
And
look
when
at the
was
waistband,
that filmed?
the 1968.
68.
Okay, I
yeah.
can
68
add
came
that.
out.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're talking about 11 years before Alien came out. And so everything is really polished. Because Star Wars is very different. If you
Yes.
look at both...
In
both,
tone and atmosphere, yeah.
well, I'm
It's
talking
not
more about
sci-fi.
if we're looking at the
Yeah.
innards of the ship.
Yeah.
So you have Star Trek on one
okay.
side and you'll have Alien on the other.
Yeah,
like Star
sure,
Trek,
sure.
Star Wars is actually in the middle. If you look at like the insides of the Millennium Falcon, for example,
Yeah.
everything looks rusty, everything looks old, everything looks
That's
kind of
right.
beat
This is
down.
what I mean. Like, it looks like
Yeah.
real stuff you're using.
But if you look at the Death Star, the Death Star is polished.
True.
Everything
Yes.
is nice and clean.
Reflective,
Because
yet
it's the
dark.
Empire.
Exactly, right? So you have
'Cause
this
it's the bad
idea that
guys.
Star Wars finds itself literally in the middle, this transition right
Yeah.
there. And then Alien goes completely Millennium Falcon times 1,000, where everything is just like pipes and smoke and everything is just completely
Well,
And
destroyed.
small
There's always a
spaces,
problem.
too.
Yeah.
The
Which
designer,
people kind
the
of
designer
always
of the
bent down.
Nostromo designed the Star Destroyers. It's the same guys. It's the same
Really?
model makers. Yeah,
That's
the,
odd. He really
the
went
model
180
makers
on
on
that one.
Alien worked on Empire Strikes Back. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think they had
I'll try to
very
find his
clear
name, but-
design
I'll try to find his name, but yeah.
atmospheres they wanted to evoke
Mm-hmm.
in Empire, and so I mean, even Darth Vader's helmet is very reflective. So his environment
Only
is almost
starting
an
Empire Strikes Back, though, if you look at
it's
like,
an
A New Hope.
extension of
Yeah.
Darth Vader. His environment
Right.
reflects him and his personality,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So not to
It's
get
the Empire. Yeah.
right. So, but I mean, mostly I'd characterize the quote unquote technology by like what you're talking about, the Millennium Falcon. And again, I think they took that straight from Frank Herbert.
Just to add, it's Brian Johnson. He worked on Alien and in Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
well,
back and
I
forth,
see,
back
I
and
do
forth.
think that there's
And the
evidence
influence is
there,
there, yeah,
that they
yeah.
were trying to bust through these old conceptions of what science fiction is supposed to be about, with the shiny surfaces, the
That's right.
Jetsons, and
dirty
the
look.
shiny robots.
I like
and
that. And which brings us to the gothic nature of the interiors
Actually,
of the Nostromo.
you're right. Yeah, it's
And
very
Alien
gothic.
itself.
No, the
Yeah.
idea, like the haunted house in space, I thought was actually a very interesting thing because if you look at any like Gothic literature, if we take Dracula for example, these idea of castles with long hallways
Yeah.
that are not
Dark
necessarily clean,
interior
dark and
spaces.
stuff like
yeah,
that.
not clean. You're right.
Exactly.
Cobwebs.
Yeah. So I think that the Nostromo being this haunted house in space, but it's also a journey within, right?
Yes.
If you look at the way that the ship is made, all these pipes, they represent the veins, everything that's actually in there is actually alive. And when they actually find the ship on LV-426, it's very interesting because all of that actually looks alive. The alien
Well,
ship
but
looks
that's
alive.
It's
Geiger's
organic.
genius, right?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
the
Everything's organic,
biotech.
very good, yeah.
We could have like a whole podcast on Giger. Yeah, Geiger,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Geiger.
Yeah,
His
I'm
whole
not sure I'm
phallic
pronouncing
and,
that
yeah,
right,
there you
but
go. I don't even
But
know
I'd
myself.
like
Don't
to
worry.
compare. Like you were talking about gender earlier, and I think because the alien, if we look at the ship on LV-426, this idea that it's organic, we have the human ship as well in Nostromo having mother. We're talking about eggs. There's a very big female quality
Oh,
that comes.
isn't there though?
Of course.
Yes,
comes
because
out of
the
Alien.
science
very
fiction horror
female,
is
yeah.
almost inseparable from the image of the mother, right?
All right.
Because the monstrous mother, which is a trope borrowed from archaic imagery, actually.
Okay.
You had a parthenogenic mother, which is a technical term for a self-regenerating mother. She requires no masculine input.
Oh, that's
yeah.
interesting.
So, so there's this archaic mother, which is the abyss. She's a figure of terror, and not only does she give birth, part of the reason why she's threatening is because she gives birth endlessly to offspring that are
That's right, the
terrifying in
eggs,
themselves, or they will just overwhelm because there's just so many of them and they're so endless. And her vagina is the abyss, and the vagina dentata, and all of this kind of imagery of this terrifying original source of life is dating back to primitive imagery, but has been recycled and reused, and in horror, but also in science fiction to a large degree, and it's borrowed quite a bit in cyborg imagery. But also in Alien, the movie Alien.
Well, it works great in Alien and Aliens.
And there's, I won't get into the big, long discussion of why it's so appealing and why it's used, but it is very common, and it's beautifully represented in Aliens, the second one in particular.
We'll get into it a little bit. I want to understand a little bit more
about why it's appealing.
Why
Yeah,
it's
so
appealing.
do I, because
I
for
think
me-
that's a very interesting point. Why is it appealing? Why are we drawn to this?
Well, sex
We're watching
in
these
Alien,
movies.
yeah.
Obviously, there's sex involved, but
Yeah,
it's very
so
sexual.
you've got the corporeal kind of, horror will often resort to the body to terrify you. So anything that that makes you feel about how something is going to invade your body or hurt your body, is or get inside you and take over you, or in some way get really personal, is the most terrifying. So just for the sheer value of the emotional response, horror will often get into the body, but also this draws on feminist theory quite a bit as well. The idea that a lot of stories are written by men for male consumption, science fiction especially dating back. I mean, now I think much less so. Women are perceived as being consumers of science fiction, but especially in the 50s and 60s, it was seen as a masculine genre for a masculine audience.
I agree.
And so the people generally agree. I mean, this is debatable, but people generally will agree that especially young men that are consumers of science fiction find femininity threatening, period.
Sure.
So nothing is scarier than a threatening female figure. And there's a part of adolescent masculinity that is seeking to escape the threat of the smothering mother, because you need to get away from mom so that you can enter the masculine public world and be a man. How do you be a man? You get rid of your mom. And so, seriously.
But in
so
this movie, the computer controlling everyone is Mother.
Well,
she
and
has
think
everyone's
of,
life.
Think of the
their
massive,
hands.
terrifying alien mother
Yeah,
in
in Aliens.
Alien 2,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She
Not to
is
mention-
the horrific, terrifying mother that is prolific.
She's
like she's just
self-sufficient. Yeah, she
pumping
just
out
pumps out
those
those
eggs.
soldiers.
She's gonna smother you with her
Soldiers,
presence
yeah.
and
Yeah.
just envelop you,
And-
and they're stuck in the womb.
There's
Like,
that. Did
they-
you guys
yeah.
remember what Kane says after waking up? His sentence literally he says
Oh, I feel like death. Is that it?
no. When he wakes up, he mentions that the last thought he had.
was
you know,
it his
just-
mother?
No,
Oh, I feel like I
feel
feel
like
it smothering.
smothering.
Oh, when he wakes up from
Yeah.
the alien, he says, "I
Okay,
feel like I'm
see?
smothering."
I feel like I was
Yes!
smothering.
This bad dream, this terrible dream. I had this terrible dream
Oh,
about
because
smothering.
he had the face hugger on his
face
face.
hugger. Yes.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So the idea that
Yeah.
not only it applies
Yeah.
to Alien in this case, the fact that the alien has let him go, so he's been impregnated.
It's done
So
its
he's
job. Yeah, that's right.
But not only that, he's ejected literally from the Nostromo. Mother shoots him out
Yeah.
into space.
But
Right,
you
yeah,
remind
yeah,
me, like,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
might
yeah.
sort of get lost in, in critical material, but I remember reading this thing about, it was concerning a Shakespearean play, I don't remember which one, and there was this thing with, like, exactly, like, with vaginas and holes and, like, men trying to, I don't remember exactly what the argument was, but, like, if men don't feel like they can control it, they feel extremely threatened by it, and, like,
Yeah.
it's a source of anguish and anxiety, and it creates, there's sort of this, it creates desire, but also anxiety with regard to the whole mothering aspect.
Yeah,
and,
there's the attraction and the horror at the same time.
Yeah,
But-
I wish
but
I remembered more.
But it's
it was
interesting
really
that in Alien, Mother is a computer. It's a machine. It's sterile.
In that case,
And
in
then
the first
in
one,
Aliens,
right? Okay.
it's a queen. You know, that
Yeah.
she's so they're both
and
evil
her
in
feminine
a way.
presence overwhelms the entire movie.
That's
right?
right, yeah.
Because they're in the space that is transformed by the alien presence, which is all round
That's what you realize at
inside,
the ending. Yeah.
oozing with goo.
Yeah.
They are enveloped within her, right? And so
That's
their
right.
challenge is to escape her, to
That's
break
right.
free, almost in like a
Well, two
primordial
women
birth
escape the mother.
Well, and there's
It's
also
Newt
like
and Ripley escaping.
kind of takes on this surrogate mother role with Newt.
right, yeah.
And the movie begins as well with she realized she's been rescued from deep space. She realizes that she's been in deep sleep for 57 years.
Yeah, something like that.
56 years. And her first question to the company representative is, I want to know about my daughter.
Yeah.
And he tries to put her off at first.
That's right.
And she's like, no, tell me about my daughter. And so then, of course, he admits that she's passed away, unfortunately.
That's right.
She was in her 60s
Really
or
old.
something. Yeah, so she has this motherhood taken away from her. I've heard critics make the argument that when she mothers Newt, it's a voluntary mothering,
That's
which
right.
makes
Yeah,
it different
absolutely.
from
Yeah, I agree.
other sort of narratives, which will just automatically cast women as mothers or instinctively mothers. She's apparently
she's-
like choosing. I find
Well,
that a
she's
little
choosing,
bit
I think,
like
but-
that's a pretty small difference in my mind. They're still taking the woman and saying,
Yeah.
well, you're just naturally wanting to be a mom, right? But
yeah.
She's the one who understands her the most. You know, like no one seems to want to take care of her but Ripley. Does that make her like a bad person?
no,
of course
I
not.
mean it's a small criticism.
Does it make her like a
'cause
mother? Well,
What are
maybe.
you going
I
to
don't
leave
know.
the girl there? I mean, you're
No,
not,
that's the
obviously
thing.
not going to leave her there.
But why didn't what's his name?
Hicks?
Yeah, Hicks. Well, he could have been a dad to her, but he doesn't do that because he's a grunt. You know, he's a.
You're right.
He
Definitely
he's the
doesn't
Marines.
take
You know,
on any kind of father.
he's a grunt. He couldn't care less. He falls asleep in that. When they go down the planet, it's really rough, and he falls asleep.
Is he the one that
couldn't care
falls
less.
asleep in
yeah,
the,
he couldn't
in
care
the
less.
falling
Yeah.
thing? Oh, nice.
Anyway.
All right, cool. All right, so that brings us to possibly our last question of the evening, which would be, how does Alien relate to today? We've been talking about all these little interesting theories and whatnot, and I mean, we're still fascinated by it. We'd probably still be able to go on for another couple of hours. But I would like your impressions on why Alien kind of, well, in my opinion, it holds up. It still works.
It works.
There's a lot to be discussed, and it'll probably be discussed for quite a long time. In my opinion, Alien much more than Aliens. Aliens is far back in my mind. I still enjoy it occasionally, but Alien itself, it works much more for me. And I'd like you guys' impressions on why is it still fascinating? Why are we still paying attention to these things? Jason?
I think that again, this whole idea of Ash knowing about the alien and the others not knowing about it. And we live in a culture of conspiracy theorists. I mean, X-Files came back maybe, 10 years later? Like 12 years later? Or something when they did the 6-part miniseries this winter. This whole idea of you think you know what's going on, but you don't. You have no idea. You're always left in the dark. And I think it works because of this idea that the company knew about the robot. The company's robot knew about the alien. They wanted it. They wanted to weaponize it, and they wanted.
Yeah.
So this idea of don't trust the government, don't trust the powers that be,
Don't trust the war effort.
don't trust the war effort, don't trust all of this is a scam, and they're tricking you, and this whole idea of the veil, and I think that's why it still works today because of this idea of the conspiracy theory and all that. I think that's my take on it.
I think the longevity of this film, I mean, because it is still super popular. 2 reasons, I think, is because they keyed into that idea that I think started with Frank Herbert, which is that technology is something dirty that you use. And they just managed to create the atmosphere that was realistic in that sense, that that the technology surrounding these people was stuff that they really used, and I think that realism is part of what makes it avoid becoming dated. Even as far as today, like we were saying earlier, like the haircuts look dated, but that's it.
Yeah.
The waistlines look a little dated, but otherwise the movie really it just holds up over
It works,
time.
yeah.
But I think the other thing that really maintains the popularity is the creature itself. The creature is a
Yeah,
success.
that's a fair point.
And it's just so fascinating. I find it beautiful. I know my aesthetic is different from other people's, but the alien itself I find very beautiful.
Isn't it kind of timeless as a
timeless,
creature? It's one
Well,
of those
it's
things that if
scary
it
and
came
it's
out
beautiful
today,
at the same time,
we'd
yeah.
still be like, "Oh my god, what
Yeah,
is that
you're
thing?"
right. If
Well,
it
my
was
kids
new
are creeped
today,
out by it.
And
They're
I
very
think we
young.
have to mention, because
freaked out.
we're not on video, this is just audio, we have a toy replica
Yes, we have an action figure
of the alien that we all played with
Yeah, the
for
xenomorph.
a good hour
Yes.
before the podcast
Yeah.
recording began, because we love it.
We had it
It's
playing
cool.
air guitar,
And,
doing Michael Jackson impressions.
And the fact that it's a variable creature depending on what it's born out of, so there was the mechanical
Yeah,
mouth.
you press a button and the mouth comes out.
So
it's
it's
awesome.
open
Toys.
to endless interpretation. Whatever it's born out of, it's going to take the shape of. So that's great. It's open to more variation. But it's design genius. Geiger was a genius of biotech design, which appeals to my personal tastes.
Yes, because you study it, obviously.
Well, yeah, but as we go into the future, the line between human and organism and mechanical technology, that line gets blurred further and further, and so that's why biotech has a lasting appeal, I think. So yeah, that's what I think.
All right, Leslie-Ann, why do you think it relates to today?
I think to me it works because, how could I explain it? Like this idea that something enters your body, and I mean we were talking about that earlier, and that you have sort of no control over it, and that you might not be able to counter, like it's inside you but you don't know, and then everything you do or think may be influenced by the thing inside your body. I don't know, to me that it's very relevant. It's very relevant to today. Yeah.
Absolutely, I like that a lot.
Well,
Very,
the
very
fact
good.
that they made Prometheus, 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
Roughly.
I mean, it proves that it's lasting, and it's based on the first movie.
It is.
It doesn't count Aliens or Alien 3 or Resurrection.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's based on the first movie, which is, I think, in the long run, everyone's favorite movie.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
I also agree. I think that it does relate to today and very, like, everything we've discussed so far tonight. I think that the idea of social class plays a big part in what we've actually been discussing in Alien itself. I know that Roger Luckhurst doesn't agree with that. He thinks that there are no hierarchies and whatnot in Alien, but the ship is clearly leveled in specific ways. You'll have the guys that are going to be down in the basement, Parker and Brett. Then you'll have the people that are higher up. Ripley, even as a female in the movie itself, whenever she actually has power, because Dallas leaves the ship, no one actually gives her any respect. No one respects her, anything like that.
True.
So it really speaks to how women are actually coming of age right now. It's very, very strange. I don't mean it in
In a negative way.
in a negative way or anything like that, but we see it a lot. Women are being portrayed a lot in look at Star Wars right now. Rey is going to be the next Luke Skywalker in a sense. You know, Mad Max. You have that Furiosa. You know, women are coming to the forefront of everything, and so Ripley, in my opinion, is the one that actually kind of brought that to the front back in 1979. So she is more relevant today than she might have actually been at the time. Because we have these powerful female characters that are going to be seeping through in popular culture. Even look at Rogue One, the new Star Wars movie. You have Jyn Erso.
They should
that's
show
going
it again.
To be,
They should present it
exactly.
as
They have these
And their
strong
power has
female-
nothing to do with their sexuality,
Absolutely
which is what
not.
makes it work.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about earlier with Alien. The fact that when we watch Alien and versus Aliens, the women are actually part of the crew. We don't even think of them as women. We think of them as crewmates.
Can we bring up the strip scene?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
The
sure.
idea of sexuality has nothing to do, or not sexuality, but gender.
Gender,
And I'll just interject with a quick thing. Oftentimes, the women's, even when you have women that are quote unquote powerful in action movies or science fiction movies, and in Dune as well, just to interject that part back in, part of their power comes from their sexuality. It's the sexuality that disarms the man, that they use as a weapon against somebody else and whatnot. And this is not really, this is not feminism to have a woman who is quote unquote strong because she sexually subdues someone.
That's right.
That is not an expression of a equal feminist kind of woman, which is why Furiosa is, right? Is because she's nobody's lover. She's not sexualized. Whereas in Frank Herbert's Dune, Jessica, who is the Uber woman, she overtly uses her sexuality, as the Ben Gesserit all do. Their sexuality is a weapon. So so Ripley in this case it's not that.
I mean, it feels like, well, there's some, how could I put this? There's some articles about this. The fact that, well, I remember my college teacher saying that it's like the producers felt the need that at the end of the movie they needed to sexualize Ripley. So they have her
to make
strip.
her appealing to
That's
the
right.
Audiences.
Yeah, that's
Who
right.
are presumed
The
male.
male audience.
Because of
That's
the science
right.
fiction angle.
Yeah,
They make her strip, and she finds the alien half naked.
Sure, because that heightens her vulnerability.
She's in her underwear, and she's got her butt in the air. We almost see her breasts, and it barely hides her vagina and all that. And it's like, then she finds the alien, and when she's scared and she freaks out, she realizes, my God, the alien is in the ship. She kind of dresses again, but it's always cut with the alien showing out his little mouth that kills.
Right, so
the
it's
phallic
like
imagery,
an erection
the
happening.
phallic erection
Oh,
of
my God.
the alien,
I never
and
made
she
that
is
link, but that's amazing.
Really cool. I saw it anyway.
And it's actually drooling at that.
It's
point, too.
drooling.
It's very much like
it's covered in cum. Let's just
cum,
put it all over. Let's just
absolutely.
put it out there. And it's just, and
it's not the best choice of words that you could have used.
I'm sorry. Anyway, but it's
Put it out there.
But it just feels yeah, exactly. But it's frustrating in a way because everything that was built up for Ripley was kind of torn down for that moment where she strips. The alien has an erection, but she does end up killing it. So she does get her kind of redemption. There is redemption in there. But there is still this idea of she had to show her sexuality before killing the alien.
Like we were saying, right?
And it's kind of like a seduction game.
Ridley Scott kind of tries to subvert this demand for sexuality because the way that she strips and is presented, she's not really sexualized.
It's sexy for a couple of seconds, maybe, when she does take off her...
Maybe for a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I mean, she's not wearing sexy underwear.
No.
She doesn't look great.
No.
So-called
She's
great.
going to bed.
It would
She's
not
going to bed
be
kind of
in
thing.
a magazine, she just...
Yeah.
So, to me, the scene, it reads as very real. It's a real woman getting ready for bed. And you get these scenes with no clothes, oftentimes, to heighten that. Again, we're going back to the body, right? You identify with this character that is, all the armor is off.
Yeah.
You're vulnerable when you have no
she
clothes
thinks she's
on.
safe.
Right, yeah. And so that's when you get the biggest danger is oh my God, I could maybe handle a home invasion, but not when I'm naked. So,
the alien home invades her.
You bring up the way that the scene was shot, which is absolutely brilliant because, most of the time, as someone that had no maturity in shooting anything, let's not forget that Alien is only Ridley Scott's second movie. He had shot The Duelist in '76.
Yeah.
And he had done
That's
most of his work in advertising. Right? So he knows what he's doing at this point. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, he knows how to sell sex.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he purposely did not do that. He knew that
apparently
he would have to
it's
intercut.
the studio that said we need some sexiness in this movie.
need some
We need
nudity.
some nookie.
But
we
if
need
ever you
some-
would actually look at a movie like nudity and things like that, you would suggest it with specific angles, right?
Yeah,
You would actually
yeah.
film a close up of the head, maybe cutting it off of the
You're
shoulders
right,
and
the
things like that.
angles,
You would
yeah.
actually
To
show
hide the
thighs
breast
and
or-
things like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But Scott just
Doesn't.
positions
He showed her body.
Exactly. He just
Completely.
puts the camera down, lets her do her thing, and we're just observing, she's getting ready for bed. He doesn't overtly sexualize that moment. He just puts us in this situation
bit of a
where
strip, but she is going to bed. It's it's voyeuristic more than a strip.
Yeah, it is
It's
voyeuristic.
You think
You're
so?
right, but it's girl next
Well, the
door
way she's
voyeur.
being...
Yeah, I guess.
She's
But
just
I mean,
taking off her
I
clothes.
didn't feel like I was peering in on something that was... not meant for
It
my
doesn't.
eyes.
It doesn't feel Michael Bay.
Yeah. No, exactly, right?
Megan
It's not
Fox.
Shawnee Katane or Tawny
Just
Katane or
look
something.
up
yeah.
at your short shorts. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like that.
No, exactly. I thought it was
But
very
then
well
the alien
done.
comes out and she gets dressed once again. It's like the home invasion. Like you put on the robe and then you check what's
Right.
going
Oh, yeah,
on.
you're
You know,
right.
like
the
Yeah.
suit.
well,
Okay.
she knows what she's
She
going to
puts on
do
a
to the
helmet.
alien.
Well,
She puts on a helmet,
big,
protection. There
bulky,
you
not
go.
sexy suit
That's right.
too, right?
Which is good. Yeah, that's right. There you go. And she finally kills it. She gets her satisfaction. She kills the fucker.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she kicks him out the door.
That's it.
Yeah, get
Stay
out. Get out of my
Right,
home.
I'm
right,
gonna
right.
change my locks.
All right,
And then
I
she
guess
goes
that,
back to bed with Jonesy. Yeah.
I
Right.
guess that brings us to a close. All right,
right.
so thank you guys very much. This was our first episode of
Yay.
Yeah.
Real Table Talk. I was Jason Michael, your host. Hopefully that you guys enjoyed this.
Jason Beaulieu.
Carrie Lynn.
Leslie-Ann.
Thank you very much. We'll keep you posted for our next post. I said post too many times, and we're going to cut there. Have a good night.
Good night. Good night. See ya.